Hello.
Hey Marcus, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Welcome to your stage. You've made it. So I'll be your stage manager today.
Yeah, I must say I had to pass through a lot of levels in order
Yeah,
to get to this place.
exactly. It's like gate after gate. So you're home free and you're here. So welcome. A couple things I want to check before we start your talk. I can see and hear you clearly, so that's good. That's step one. If you would share your presentation with me, I want to make sure it comes through on my end.
Yeah, sure. Do you see it?
Yes, go beyond speech recognition. Excellent. All right, wonderful. All right. So my next question: do you have any? Do you have a Q&A or plans for any sort of Q&A?
I mean, I can just take it up, whatever comes in the chat after the session, or even during. I can just like monitor in the chat. I don't have a moderator with me
Sure. Yeah.
today, so.
Most people have not today. Typically, there's usually some time at the end, and any attendees that have any questions will post there on the right, and most speakers just answer them as they come up or at the end. So I just want to be prepared for whatever you have.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so Q&As like that. And we have you for 50 minutes.
Yeah, so I wanted to check with you on that. How does that work? The session is just 30 minutes, right? I mean, that's kind of what I was told, to have a 30-minute session.
Yeah, I mean, we have you for 50, but I mean, you don't have to go till the end. It's just this stage is blocked out. So if your presentation is about 30, it'll give you time for a question and answer, and there won't be any sort of hurry or anything like that. But don't feel like you have to go the entire 50 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because I'm sure people are having back-to-back sessions, so it doesn't hurt to give someone a coffee break.
Absolutely. Especially today, they've been going 30 minutes. So, okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So once we're done chatting here, I'll ask you to put your presentation up and leave it there so people know that they're in the right place. I'll drop off screen. I'll ask you to go leave your presentation, and then once 2 o'clock comes, or the top of the hour, I don't know where you're joining us from, I'll come and introduce you, and then I will drop off screen. I'll still be here enjoying your talk, just to monitor, see if there's any AV issues or anything like that. I do want to get your name and title correctly if you want to pronounce it correctly and who you are. Just want to confirm.
Yeah, it's Surbhi Rathore.
Surbhi Rathore?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And you're the CEO at?
Symbl.ai.
Symbl.ai. Okay. Just want to make sure I pronounce that.
Yeah. This session window, which I see on my right-hand side, and the chat, that's kind of where people will be, right? Typing in their questions.
Correct. Yeah. So we're the only ones that have the privileges to be on screen. And so if anybody wants to interact with you or questions, they'll type it there, and then you can respond accordingly. So other than that, do you have any questions for me?
No. I've done this a couple of times, so I don't think
okay, good. Experience. All right, that's good.
Would be a problem.
All
What's
right.
the time like? Okay, we still have 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. So take a break, drink some water. Just if you would leave your presentation up so people know that they're in the right place, and then drop off your screen, and I'll drop off mine, and I will introduce you at the top of the hour. Okay.
So you can see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay.
All right, looks good over here. So yeah, just drop off your audio and visual, and we will see you at the top of the hour. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, great. Have a great talk.
The changes. I'll just keep it like this.
Hello and welcome to World Festival 2021. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Surbhi Rathore. She is the CEO at Symbl.ai. She'll now be joining on screen. Thank you.
All right. Am I audible? I guess so. Okay, let's start. Hey everyone, so excited to be here. I hope you all can hear me and see my screen. Really excited to be here and talk to you. Speech recognition, conversation AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning and communications, they are such buzzwords right now that everyone hears all the time, all around us. And I'm really excited today to talk about the key areas in which I am working with my company, Symbl, in order to progress the entire ecosystem on how to develop experiences that just go beyond speech recognition. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with transcription related use cases on voice and video, and everyone thinks this about how do you do the next thing beyond transcription, or how do you make it useful. We are going to spend some time today on it. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Symbl.ai, and just a little background about myself. I'm a software engineer by background, co-founded the company 3 years back. Travel enthusiast, not just by passion, but also because my family is distributed across several continents. I'm a big advocate of women in AI, really champion female founders, female technologists in order to transition into the space of AI and machine learning and help build the systems in a very unbiased fashion. I'm also a speaker panelist for AI and Conversations, and really passionate about talking about the journey of several businesses that have worked with us that have gone from just enabling communications to maximizing the potential of that communication data as a next function of growth in their businesses. I was recently awarded the Founder of the Year Award from Women in Voice community, which I'm forever grateful for. You can find me at Twitter and LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me whenever talking about any specific use cases on voice, video, or text conversations. So what are we doing today, really? We'll talk a little bit about Symbl towards the end to tell you what we are doing at this company and how it relates to our topic of discussion today. But really, it's important for us to understand about what is conversation intelligence, what is conversation intelligence as a service, why do we really care about it, and how do you build with the voice, video, or text conversation data that is flowing across so many channels of communication, whether they exist in real-time fashion over live streams, the ones which is happening right now as I talk to you, or in the form of recorded files which are just sitting in the drives of so many businesses, and people are not able to delete it from a compliance standpoint that they need to have recordings on the file. Also, how does implementing a totally new nascent technology in the space can be really awesome if it aligns with the business goal. Just like any other tech, we are also beginning to see an implementation of this new technology to give a valuable outcome for a business, and it's really important to start with the goal. And then also look at how does a typical CI journey look like for anyone who wants to start on this journey. What are the low-hanging fruits? How can you begin? What kind of use cases can you start with? What are some of the API outputs, endpoints, capabilities, or machine learning features that you need in your product in order to really maximize the potential of this journey? And then towards the end, we'll just touch a little bit about Build with Symbl. And if you are interested in Build with Symbl, we have a lot of resources for you towards the end. So we'll talk about it. But first, let's take a step back and really talk about why we should care about digital content, really. We all are living in this absolutely new digital era at this point of time. And it is unbelievable how communication mediums have changed and evolved over the last probably one and a half years. With COVID, everything that we do is now through a digital channel, which also means that communications over online mediums have become a really critical part of customer journey, of our survival, of the new way of working. And in this new way of working, organizations which are not digitizing customer engagement are negatively impacted. And their businesses are suffering churn or going through a stagnation in the growth, while there is a lot of opportunities of maximizing this digital content and use it for increasing retention, building differentiation, upselling by building new products. This is the time where businesses need to think about maximizing the digital engagement at scale and really care about and think about using voice, video, digital engagement data as really the next data mine for their business. But I mean, given all this, even if we understand the value of digital content and engagement, are we really maximizing the potential of conversation data? And what does it really mean by maximizing the potential of data? It's really being able to convert conversation data to analytics, to actions, to knowledge in real time, asynchronously, and really thinking about it as an absolutely new source of data which is today missing in your data pipelines, and making sure that we can derive results from this data and go to the next level of growth for our own products and businesses. However, this maximization of data is not just about speech recognition. It's much, much beyond speech recognition, and that's really what we will talk about today. Is yes, speech recognition is a very critical and important part of that equation. We do need speech recognition because if it's garbage in, garbage out, it is available today. Accuracy is important. It's important to scale speech recognition at scale, at low cost. But even if you do all of that and you're not really maximizing on the content and using that content and speech and analytics in order to derive actions, coaching, compliance, so many different use cases in your business, you're really missing out on additional dollars for your business. So the key verticals that we have seen so far that have had pretty massive impact with conversation intelligence is listed here. And if you are a business that is actually building a product or a workflow in these arenas, I would really encourage you to give thought and do some more research on how you can use CI in one of these products, specifically in all these most of the customer facing touch points, where customer engagement and experience is such a big part of any of these products or services. Maximizing that touch point data becomes a very critical factor. So sales, I'm sure you would have heard about companies like Gong and Chorus, which are really trying to build revenue intelligence and bring it in part of the CRM journey, helping agent onboarding time to get reduced, maximizing visibility into how agents are talking, making sure the CRM is automatically populated. Those are some of the use cases that we are seeing in sales products today. Customer support, really important aspect of reducing call handling time, making sure can we have automatic disposition given in the CRM dashboard so that agents don't have to spend time during the call and typing their different fields in the CRM platform. Can we automate some of the processes? Can we assist the agent on the call in real time if they're talking about a specific question or if the sentiment of the call is going low? How can you make sure that you can continuously monitor the agent and provide the support that you need for making that agent an expert on the call that will help you increase your NPS and customer experience? Similarly, across customer service, being able to assist in this new remote world, servicing customers on call by live agents, by videos, making sure all the information is assisted during that service equation. Education and training, big part of the content that is being created. Are we really able to train the trainers and really help them understand how to conduct a session in a way that there is maximum engagement? Similarly, telehealth, gaming, profanity detection, making sure that content is moderated because there's so much digital content through gaming. Recruitment, how do you create the best recruitment experience for the business? How do you make sure you can maximize the analysis of candidate interviews, can distribute those analysis across departments to be able to share resources, and meetings, which is an ever-evolving problem that we all face, is how do I take notes in my meetings and capture action items and make sure there is knowledge and visibility created across organizations. Each of these verticals have a high potential to go to the next generation experiences by maximizing on AI and machine learning from conversations. And what we are going to talk today about is just that journey. But before we begin, let's take a pause and really think about the use cases that you are thinking about right now on this call. If you are here, you need to answer this question if you or your customer really value that conversation data. Because to be a devil's advocate here, sometimes you can have a conversation data exchange on a channel on your product, which neither are you valuing nor your customer is valuing. And it's really a one and done sort of a thing. And maybe that's not the right use case to build for it. So I'm not trying to advocate that today we know all the use cases and exactly how conversation is useful. But definitely, if your customer or you value conversation data, then this session is for you. So let's build your CI journey today. So if you are already familiar with speech recognition or with using audio or video data in your business, we are going to go through all the different layers in which you can go from just starting high impact, low effort use cases to all the way complex personalization, domain intelligence sort of use cases, which are going to change the way the product looks to your business, looks to your customers. So as we start on the CR journey, it's really important as step one to make sure that how do you get access to the data, first of all? And data here, but what we are talking about is really, do you have access to live audio, video, or text conversations in your business or product? Do you have access to recorded files? If you as a product are making your users go to Zoom or um, Google Meet or Cisco WebEx to do the meetings, and then they come back and execute rest of the workflows, can you actually have access to those recorded files, even if it's not live, to make sure that the data continuity between this customer journey remains the same way and it does not get interrupted? And you can actually understand the complete life cycle of interaction and not just the one which is disconnected and data siloed. So do you have access to live audio recording, live data, which is being processed on streaming endpoints? Do you have access to recorded files? Is it in form of audio data, or do you have video data? Do you have emails, chat? There are all the forms of conversation data. It's just this is the step one, because if you don't have access to this, we guys need to figure out like how to get that access. So I'm sure some of you must be using AWS S3 bucket in order to store the recording files. That's a great example of how any other data store can be used for the same. If you're building with Twilio, Agora, Nextmo, Vonage, or Dolby like technologies, even AWS Chime, then these are some of the technologies that can give you access to the voice or video data directly using APIs. They all have APIs by which you can fetch the audio data. Or if you're using like telephony systems like FreeSwitch, you can get this information, this voice data, by phone calls, either in the recorded format or dial into SIP or PSTN endpoints in order to get that live data. So these are some of the ways in which you can get access to audio, video, or text conversations. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm if anyone wants to schedule a time and talk about it. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm and figure out what is the best way to fetch that data into your product or platform. But once you have that data and access to that data for your business, let's start like bottom to up towards what are the things that you can really do across these channels. All these different use cases that can be accomplished can be done either on real-time basis, where you can literally show that intelligence or derive that intelligence within a few milliseconds, few hundred milliseconds in the business, or it can be done totally asynchronously in a near real-time fashion, that as soon as the conversation ends, you have those results and intelligence derived, and then using that you can then create actions or input it in a downstream system or really show it to the user in form of a new experience that you can build. Also, all these use cases can be performed in a very generic way, which is really horizontal, where you can capture most of the commonalities that can be derived from here can be shown. Or you can also build this in a very personalized fashion based on what domain are you targeting. So an experience which is built for, let's say, tracking conversation characteristics in a contact center will be very different from the one for in an L&D department, right? So you can basically create that personalization at both ends, and that's how you should think about when you're thinking about actually or putting together an entire use case discovery for your product on how exactly and what are the different characteristics of this use case that I want to embed in the first MVP version, a beta version, and then as I go live. And you can start with like an asynchronous form of an experience that you can build for the ease. Then you can go to a real time, build this generically, and then add personalization and keep testing it with user feedback throughout this life cycle so that you have the right data point and you can bring users to the journey of this conversation intelligence rather than overwhelming them with a lot of features right at the beginning. So let's start at the bottom. If you are using an audio or a audio video platform, or you have actually built an audio video product, the most low hanging fruit that you can actually embed in your platform can be creating an accessible user experience for your customers using live captioning or real time transcription. That enables you to, one, not just start capturing the data from the conversation itself and not having to lose that if you're not already recording those conversations, but then also being able to help people catch up to the conversation and build a very inclusive experience. Always step one for webinar platforms. I think this is absolutely critical at this point of time. Also considering that we are always multitasking and we need to provide for a more accessible and inclusive experience. Live captioning in your webinar or social platform can really change the way users get value today from your product. So definitely that is always step one in order to do that. But if we talk about the same webinar experience, or let's say a meeting platform, um, or an ed tech sort of a platform with after live captioning, the next thing that you want to do is being able to provide an easy way for your customers to search, index, or filter the content for better distribution and knowledge creation. Imagine with so much of content getting created at this point of time, and let's say even webinars, we are doing events almost like 10 or 15 video recordings a day in an event at least, but not being able to go and search easily by the common topics, by the ones that you most resonate with, based on your your history of engaging with content. What is the new content that can be suggested to you? So content recommendations. All this can be really accomplished if you try to break down your content into smaller pieces, creating a table of contents, creating an outline of the content, building quick search parameters for that content, being able to easily index that information, and it can really help scale distribution. It can really help people navigate that content in a very easy fashion, and can also help create similar sort of knowledge across the industry. So if we are talking about, let's say, pricing over 10 different webinar videos, all that pricing content across those video can be indexed together, and that is amazing. So without people having to go and really go through every 1 hour of recording, if I am interested in pricing, I should be just able to look at clips or listen to the right places where pricing was talked about. Just an example. So searching, indexing, filtering content for content distribution and consumption is a very critical part of the huge volumes of content that we are creating at this point of time. After that, next step, moderating that content. With so much information which is being available as part of digital content, it's also very important that we moderate that content at the source itself or at the distribution channels. Being able to easily redact that content, comply with the rules of the business, or to even detect profanity within it, and being able to flag that content before it gets distributed is hugely helpful in order to make sure that we remove the biases, or we remove just the bad information getting promoted through social channels. So moderating content is your next level of intelligence that you can embed in your own products. Next, once all this data is available, indexed, classified, moderated, how to continue to provide this accessibility to this data through other systems? And for that, we can easily classify this data and push data into downstream systems. So for instance, if you're in a webinar and someone's asking questions about that product webinar, you might want to put the information of that individual along with the questions asked and the answers that were given into a CRM system for the sales team to be able to act upon it and follow up upon those questions from the product itself. So those kind of experiences can be built if you're able to categorize the in-conversation content and really put the right pieces of that content which was talked about, or questions asked, or next steps discussed, into the right forms of downstream systems, whether it is CRM products, whether it is Trello boards, Jira boards, whether it is survey products or even integrated to other platforms. So those are the downstream systems. And this will really help to bridge the gap between where communication and engagement happens to where actually system of records exist and all the data exist for different individual personas. The next stage is how to now I use this data and the information which is processed through this data so that the next time I talk, I can do it better and more clearer and more engaging and just close more business or increase my NPS. And for that, it's really important to understand the characteristics of good calls, bad calls, and figure out what are the characteristics at an aggregated level on scale, which can help us improve future interactions. This now becomes at kind of a cusp of real time as well as predictive, because you're trying to use the real time data and the historic data in order to recommend characteristics which can influence the shape of the conversation which is to be happened. Agent coaching is a very very popular, I think, use case in the coaching arena. In sales specifically, in order to onboard new agents, you can help them kind of coach in real time as they are taking the first call. They can literally be guided during that call in terms of, this is going great, do not talk about this topic. And if someone talks about a specific information about the product, they can have indicators in order to say that usually at this point in the product, the conversation goes silent, so it's better to ask more questions. So these kind of programmable coaching characteristics is something that you can embed in your product and really help people learn from better conversations. And then, in addition to using those conversation characteristics to coach in future conversations, you can also track certain conversation characteristics. So, for instance, if I'm a new agent and I'm trying to make a sale here, and my customer talks about a competitor product, I am not as much experienced to handle that objection, but maybe my sales manager could. So if I could quickly track that a competitor name was stalked and in real time notify the manager to come on my call, it is just going to help me close the deal. And there is no better way to capture or to act than to actually act in real time, because that's when you have the attention from the customer. So that's how you can track conversation characteristics and kind of create workflows and automation around it in order to act on it, in order to recommend something new, in order to help the agents, or to just store and notify other people in the organization. And then the last, which we come towards, is workflow automation, which is kind of the ultimate goal, because at the end of the day, when I'm talking to someone, I want recommendations passively to be indicated of any actions that needs to be taken place. So if I say, all right, this looks really cool, let me go ahead and send you an invoice and we can start the contract tomorrow, instead of spending time in going ahead and doing the fillers and creating the contract and then sending it to an email address, a part of or a lot of this process can be actually automated. But being able to use voice conversations to passively recommend the automations and probably with a click of the button actually execute the automation is kind of the way that we will really maximize voice conversation data around us. There's also an interesting perspective here in order to think about attaching voice conversations and voice intelligence with RPA platforms. Because RPA platforms are really trying to do automation at scale. And now when you add voice intelligence in it, when just passive conversation intelligence, combining it with RPA systems, the level of automation can be really, really scaled. So those are some of the use cases, I would say, which we've seen over a period of time. Obviously, there are always more use cases around it which kind of come out, but I wanted to condense it in a form that you can think about what really matters most from your business standpoint. And like I said, you can start from just like a post-call sort of an experience to go to real time and then eventually use this data to predict the outcomes of future engagements and the calls. So having said that now, and having gone through all the use cases, let's take a look at each one of those. And I have put together some visuals so that you can put these use cases into perspective, and also the API outcomes. And these API outcomes are today from Symbl APIs, but obviously if you are building your own ways of figuring this out using open source technologies or any other APIs, you will kind of find something on the similar level. But this will help you kind of think about how should I programmably build my platform in a way that I can create these experiences that matches some of these use cases that we talked about. Also, I'm not checking my chat, so in case you have any questions, feel free to add there, and I can take a look at it after the presentation is over. So yeah, the first one that we talked about, which is live captioning, and that's what you see. The experience of live captioning is now pretty standardized. It's like bottom center, with the name of the speaker, without the name of the speaker, either those ways. Some people have a default enabled, some people have an option to disable it. You will find live captioning a very popular kind of an experience now, which sits across so many different tools. So it's not new at this point of time, but what you see here on the screen is an example of live captioning with Symbl Transcription Plus product. So on the right hand side, you see the messages, the text itself, which as is gets added. Obviously, live captioning happens in real time. So adding that text in real time becomes critical, that implementation. There's a speaker name that is provided by most of the speech recognition platforms. And you can take that speaker name and append it on the left as is, or you can choose not to have a speaker name. But this is just a very standard format in which you can extract the text and the speaker name and actually show it on your UI in order to derive value from this very basic and simple experience, but really impactful. The next one, which we talked about, was around searching and indexing conversations. So here we are looking at all the key moments. So today, if you actually go and type any kind of like a YouTube, a video in Google or browser, you should be able to see something called as key moments now getting automatically populated with certain videos. And it's really what is being done here is trying to index that entire content based on the most relevant topics. And that's what you can do. So what example that you see on the right hand side is an example of a topic which relates to the timeline of the conversation and the message ID. And that helps you to figure out that X topic went from 1 minute to 2 minutes, or Y topic had related 10 different transcription sentences. And then you can create your own clips according to that. So the example that you see on the left-hand side is just a video that we've taken, and all the topics: seed investors, portfolio companies, investor, growth round, those are also the most common talked about. And what you see below that is the clips which are created out of parent-child hierarchies in a way that you will now know that throughout the timeline of the conversation, let's say from 0 to 30 minutes, how was the conversation split into parent and child topics? And then you can clip the entire content into smaller pieces, which can enable better distribution, more SEO for your content, and just easy to consume, like we talked about. So this is the search and indexing. You can find this topics and also parent-child hierarchies with Symbl topics. You can obviously build with other technologies as well. Then the next one that we talked about was content moderation. Here I'm showing only profanity. However, there's PII redaction, which is not shown here. That is also something that can be built very easily. This is an example of content moderation, and it can be easily done using trackers. Trackers is an API with Symbl by one of our products is custom trackers. And in that, we provide the capability for you to just easily put 2 or 5 words, phrases, or sentences of the things that you want to track. And our system generalizes it semantically throughout the conversation to give you anything that matches a meaning to it. And that's really impactful because you will not know the several ways in which people use toxic language. However, if you are able to put this into perspective of few keywords or phrases, then our system will do the rest of the work. And that's how it is here. Being able to moderate the content and identify the several profanatory predictions of the content will help you kind of control that at source and distribution. So this is just an example of how content can be tagged based on profanity, how it can be distributed, stopped, and stop distributed. The next one that we talked about was classifying data for downstream systems. And this is also really interesting because if in a sales call, you are able to push questions directly into Salesforce, whether it's from a webinar or from a product demo, it is really helpful to know what are the places in which there was engagement, what are the places in which we need to get back to the customer, and what are the places in which there is a chances of probably sending this information to the product team, to the marketing team in order to get more clarifications. So this is just a very, very quick example of how questions are detected from Symbl. Each question again has a score. It relates to the message ID, which means the exact moment in the conversation where the question was identified. You can also relate it to the topic in context of which the question was asked. You can relate it to the sentiments of that topic in context of this question. And there are so many things which can be done based on the connectedness of the context. But this is a great example to show you that how questions or intents or any kind of information can be pushed into downstream systems like Salesforce or CRM products. The next one that you see here is understanding coaching characteristics. We talked about how characteristics of conversations are important, but being able to use that for coaching purposes is also like a use case that we mentioned. Here on the screen that you see is some of the agents and how their number of calls, word per minute, average silence, talk ratios are identified. Those word per minute, average silence, and talk ratios are automatically identified by Symbl's analytics APIs. You can obviously build this by yourself too. We have tagged ownership and objection handling in some of the two core characteristics of this conversation. And on the right hand side, there are bars of agent empathy, politeness, and verbal clarity, which shows the extent. Like where do you stand from a ratio of 1 to, like a scale of 1 to 10 on those different characteristics, which are really critical for that business value and for that agent performance. So these are the ways in which you can create your own business logic for agent coaching with Symbl trackers. You can build your own quality scores because every business is unique, and the quality score would mean differently based on how you do business, what product you sell, and what is your customer persona. So you can, one example is you can take Symbl trackers and kind of build your own basic filters of like agent politeness, empathy, clarity, and use that in a combination in order to create your own scoring logic. That's the business logic layer that most of the businesses should try to own. Then the last one is kind of like talking about, maybe this is not the last one, but it's about tracking conversation characteristics. So on the left-hand side, what you see here is really a timeline of the conversation, how it progressed, how was the sentiment that, revolved from start to the end, what were the key intents that occurred during this entire conversation timeline. And on the bottommost that you see the small talks and the ongoing issue details, technical support, these are all topics which are identified. So here what you see is a very comprehensive view of a conversation, which can be correlated based on the sentiments, the intents during those sentiments, and the topics in context of which those sentiments and intents really took place. This much granular level of information available to a business without having to listen to the call or without having to read through the entire transcription can be a huge value in auditing, in identifying the gaps in your contact center, or even using this in order to build different workflows in the business. So that's an example. And on the right hand side, you see is just an API output again of the topic, technical support, and how it relates to the message IDs, which is the transcription sentences. And every topic also has a sentiment and polarity score to it. The topic that we are talking about, technical support, is neutral, but on these two message IDs, there was probably call hold that was talked about, and we can relate both back to the same message ID. So this is how you can really build that connected intelligence. And then the last one that we talked about was around workflow automations and actions. This is a great example, and I feel this is so enhanced right now. So, I mean, considering that this is still a new market, I think there will be a time before we will see these things happening. But what is shown here on the left-hand side is really me trying to share my screen, but instead of me having to go and find the button, spend the next 2 minutes figuring out where does that button lie, I can get an automated pop-up from the application itself that can ask me to share my screen. We're talking about in-app actions powered by conversation intelligence, which is the next generation of experience that we're all talking about here. So on the right-hand side that you see is, again, a tracker which is created called screen share, and the text is let me share my screen. Whenever someone says something around those lines, or I want to share my screen, I'm figuring out how to share my screen, I can't see screen share, things like this, automatically the system can identify that it falls under this category, and you can trigger an action on your application itself to automatically recommend that to the user. And these are all, I would say, just moments which can really change the way your experiences are built And at the end of the day, any technology that gets consumed, adopted, scaled, experience is one of the key drivers of adoption. So always make sure that you are thinking about experience as you're thinking about business goals as well as the technology itself. So now, having said all of that, what is Symbl really, and what do we do? Well, we integrate seamlessly with existing communication products, infrastructures, to provide very low latency, best-in-class, real-time conversation intelligence. If you're interested to explore this, you should go and sign up on the platform. You get 3,000 minutes. Just get started. No credit card required. There's a playground, which is more like a no-code feel for you to start playing around with all these things that I just showed you, and you will see the API endpoints and some trial with code also that you can do. Our documentation is available at docs.symbl.ai, where you can go to get understand the different APIs, how they are built, what are different capabilities, and read more in detail. What we really try to do is provide, there are three layers of the conversation intelligence as we see it that we provide. The first one is conversation processing products, which includes transcription plus and conversation analytics, a lot of which we spoke about before. The second one is contextual intelligence products, which enables you to get out of the box insights, which are applicable horizontally. And a lot of use cases, all this can help in kind of search, indexing, or pushing content into different downstream systems. Contextual insights like action items, next steps, questions. Summarization is in labs. If you're interested, I would highly recommend for you guys to go and try it out. Conversation topics is another contextual intelligence product that we have, which enables you to automatically identify parent-child hierarchies, create outlines, table of content, all of that. Then the third one that we have is domain intelligence products. So if you want to create a more personalized experience based on the domain or the vertical that you're operating in the business, then you can use our custom trackers in order to build your own custom intents, themes, characteristics, all of that, which is very relevant to the use cases that you're trying to solve, so that you can map it directly into compliance, to coaching, to actions, all of that. We have a very extensible API layer, which can help you integrate with audio, video, and text, both on real-time as well as asynchronous modes. We provide APIs over webs. We provide WebSocket endpoints, SIP and PSTN endpoints, as well as REST endpoints, and this will help you process most of the conversation data in the business or the product that you're building. We also have some customizable experiences. These are pre-built out-of-the-box widgets, which I don't have time to show at this point of time. I'm sure I'm running out. But you can, when you log into the platform, you can look at some of the pre-built UIs that we have. This helps you to kind of like quickly get to a beta test process with your users, because that's the most critical piece in this journey. How soon can you get to an experience that you can put in front of the user so that they already start playing with it and interacting with it, and you can start getting feedback early on to build that world-class experience. So searching and indexing video recordings, we have an out-of-the-box experience. Call quality and analytics, we have another experience. And then there's a text-only summary, because there's some businesses which are storing a bunch of voicemails, but honestly, they just want to process all the voicemail data and put it in a text format, which is easily available for users to get their names and entities and topics, which was in the voicemail, and just have access to it. So those are some of those experiences. Symbl is built on a patented conversation understanding engine, which can help derive the structure from speech horizontally. And we are very excited to help bring this in form of developer tools in order to really help scale and push the boundaries of what intelligence means in conversation data. The platform operates at more than 10,000 requests per second. At scale, even more than that. It's a secure encrypted deployment for enterprises. All the turnkey analytics are derived less than 400 milliseconds, which is really real time, and you can take actions, disconnect calls, make a call, trigger workflows, send an email, show UI changes. All of that can be done, creating a very powerful experience for your platform. So what are we really building today? Well, you have to answer that. Feel free to sign up on platform.symbl.ai, get your free credits, and get started to build. If you want additional free credits, feel free to connect with me. I can have some added to your account. I'm not supposed to say this publicly, but I'm still saying this. I know my team will kill me. But our API documentation is available at docs.symbl.ai, and I'm always really, really excited to discuss your use case. So if you have access to conversation data, or you want to get access to conversation data and you don't know how, or you don't know how to use it, Please book a time with me. I'm available at Symbl.ai. I would love to sit and discuss how you can really change the game of your platform or product and really take your communication experience to the whole new next level by building magical moments within your own ecosystem. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Surbhi, for your great talk today. World Festival 2021. Attendees, please navigate to the next talk on the session tabs to your left. Thank you so much.
All righty. Thanks a lot. Bye.